right, so how do I pronounce your last name?
Bashen.
Bashen.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hello and welcome to the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignott, CEO of DFlash. Today we are so excited to have Janet Bashen on the show. She has an amazing life story. She is the first Black woman to ever get a tech software patent, and we're going to have an amazing conversation. Take a listen. I am so thrilled to have you, Janet. You know, you are. I've been reading and just being like falling all over how amazing your life story is. And with our show, we always start with a very easy, non-controversial icebreaker question. So that question for you is, what was your first job?
My first job was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I worked at Jack's Hamburgers and flipping burgers. I started flipping burgers and I moved my way up to the cash register.
Oh.
And that was in the 70s, late 70s.
Wow. And how old were you?
16.
And so how does one go from flipping burgers to the cashier?
Well, you do a lot of burgers and you're fast with it, and then the cashier calls in sick, so you have to flip burgers and run the cash register.
So multitasking.
Yeah.
So skills that would become useful in your career going forward. The ability to take opportunities.
Exactly.
Multitask. And be the smartest one in the room.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And you know, when we always say that it's, how do you figure out what you're going to do, what you're going to be, and your career is spectacular. So I think I'm not going to waste my time trying to give it your bio. Jet, tell us what you do and who you are.
Well, I am the CEO, founder and CEO of Bashen Corporation. I started the company in 1994. And it wasn't really something that I set out to do. It was something that I had to do. I was working for a claims company, and I had this idea about outsourcing workplace claims. And they were doing medical malpractice claims. And I said, but there's this new industry of employment claims. CEO liked the idea, and I was just in the right place at the right time. I went to the Urban League, the convention, and I was telling them that I'm going to be investigating workplace claims and discrimination claims. And they said, well, there's somebody that you need to talk to. And they brought me over, and I met this guy, and he said, I work for Flagstar. And I said, Flagstar? I've never heard of Flagstar. He said, you probably know Flagstar, but you never heard that name. And so they said, well, we're going to put you together with some people at the Justice Department. And I said, Justice Department? Uh-oh. So what's going on? And that turned out to be the Denny's issues, the customer complaints of discrimination. And Flagstar is the parent company. And luck would have you, they were looking for a claims company. And I was the one in the right place at the right time. There was nobody out there doing what I was doing.
So you were the first one.
Yeah. But the thing is, I was working for another company, and I brought the idea to the CEO. The CEO loved it, and especially since I'm bringing in $1 million clients to begin with. But there was this thing about equity and money and all of that, and a $5,000 bonus just didn't seem like that was the right thing.
Oh hell no. No. On $1 million?
Yeah. It was multi-million. It started off $1 million, but it ended up we had the entire United States, any complaints, customer complaints, the Justice Department ended up signing a consent decree, which meant that Denny's had to send every complaint, customer complaints, to the organization that would be investigating those. So that was, I don't know if you remember that. That was in the 90s, the early 90s.
I might have been a little young, but
yeah.
I remember
I was
hearing.
a little young too, but I was in the right place, right time. But as a result of that, I didn't like the $5,000. I decided I was going to do my own thing. So I called Justice and I called Denny's and asked them if they would send me some cases. And they said, well, are you set up? And I said, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally.
Out of my house?
Yep. I have a desk and a computer.
No computers then.
No computer?
No,
so this is going to be by hand?
No, yeah. It was.
Oh my gosh.
There's a check cashing store down the street from my house. And all of my cases, I cut a deal with him to get all the facts, that's when the facts would come in.
Oh my gosh.
For my cases. And then I went to another trade show and I ran into Compact Computer. And I actually met the general counsel there, and I said, I'll do cases if you give me computers. And we bartered. And that was my first computer, was through Compact. We bartered for us doing work. And then after we had enough computers, I said, okay, now I'm just paying.
Now you gotta pay.
Yeah, Ross, I never thought it would work. And he said, yeah, I think I can make that happen. So rather than, and then I was able to convince some banker to give me $50,000, so a line of credit with a handshake. That doesn't happen these days.
I was gonna say, like, where bank were you going? Can I go there? Because like I know that if I go to the bank and ask for $25,000, they're like, no.
Oh, and so the fast.
Was that a small community bank, or was it like?
No, this was not a small community bank, but in those days it was, if you knew somebody who knew someone, and I got recommended, and I just had signed that agreement with the Justice Department.
So you didn't know when money was legit.
Yeah, exactly. And so if I fast forward, going forward, looking at investigating claims and workplace harassment, Anita Hill came along, and this was 92. I started coming in 94, but Anita Hill, that happened in 92. So the workplace was really, there was a lot of activity there. And so I thought, okay, I really got to get this moving because there's so much activity. And so I started reaching out to very large companies. And it got so bad that some companies would say, "Oh, we've got your material."
We know who
and
you
I didn't
are.
I didn't put my face on most of the things. I would always send just letters. And I'll never forget my big account I got in NYNEX here in New York, and it was NYNEX and then Bell Atlantic.
Yep.
The CEO, it was the CEO and the vice president there, Jackie Gates, who also happened to be African American. She went to a meeting and she said, I've been getting a lot of good information about this company out of Houston that can do these investigations for us. And she came into the meeting, everyone in the meeting had a letter from me, a marketing letter. And so she said, okay.
I get it.
They all were sick because they were all challenged to go find
somebody. Right.
And so the volume got to be so significant for me, and I said, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Paper is not the way of doing this.
So you literally were in your house, and then you didn't have a fax machine.
No.
So you walked down the street to the check cashing place
That's right.
to pick up the faxes, and then walk back to your house to do the claims by hand.
Yes.
That's amazing. And then how many pages were each claim?
They were not that many, so it's like one sheet, but I would get 20 to 25 claims.
That's a lot.
And, at first he was charging me, a penny, 5 cents a sheet. And then he said, your little business is affecting my little check cashing. So, in those days, Compact, they still fax me. So I was able to get, once I got my relationship with Compact, I was able to move
into some software, please. Not just the computers, but a printer.
Actually, everything that I needed. But I operated out of my house for about 9 months. No. I operated in my house about 6 months because my son and daughter, my daughter was 5 and my son was 3. And they used to crack me up every time, they would come home from school. I would tell them, I'm interviewed, quiet. But call waiting was my second line. So I would call in. And so they knew, even if they came home early, that they had to be quiet. And then I just cover things up. And then we'd have family time. So from early on, they knew what work ethic and
they saw their mom working.
Yep.
And saw the hustling so hard.
Yeah, it is. It's people think that because you are running a business, you can go to work when you want to.
Work from your pajamas and all.
And you don't have the effort is not there and you can go on vacation and all of that. And you're making all this money, but when I hired my first employee got paid before me.
Yep, same here. Look, I think there's false glossiness of entrepreneurship. It's because of the fact that we have all these technologies now that make it so easy to start a business, as they say, not realizing that those businesses are not going to go anywhere. It's going to be the people who buckle down, do the work, who walk and make those sacrifices to actually make a business run. And you may say, "Oh, this is amazing now," but like you have no idea what to get here.
Oh, that's right. Even when I thought about the idea of software, the thing I was looking at is, okay, I'm not a software engineer. I know what I need, so I had to just map it out. I had to write it out, little sticky notes, and okay, I wanted to do this, this, and this. And I had, my cousin, who happened to be a programmer, and he just graduated. Well, I guess he'd been out of school. He's older than me, so he'd been out of school about 5 years. Graduated from Tufts in computer science. And I said, Donnie, the younger cousin, I'm going to develop this software. I need you to come work for me. And he's like, excuse me?
And
I said, we're going to, I want you, as I design, because he knew nothing about claims, he knew nothing. I said, as I design, we need to go out and figure out what coding we want to do, And Cold Fusion at the time was like the best thing that was out there as far as coding, and least expensive. And it just was something that worked really well, and the reporting that we needed, all of those things. And I said, but the thing, I don't want it to be something that's on the desktop. I want it to be where you can be in New York or Houston or somewhere, and you can see what's going on, what activity is happening with the claims.
You want it in the cloud.
I wanted a web-based application. It was called ASP at that time. And so it was a cloud. And then later on became software as a service. But in 2001, we were way ahead of everyone else. It absolutely was a cloud. It was a software as a services, PaaS. It was all of those things. And, everyone's like, what are you talking about? You want someone, when they call in, to save it as a WAV file and to be able to hear the recording. And so when this was all, it was things that were possible, but you have to think outside of what everyone else, what's available. You have to think, okay, let's think forward. Okay, if I have a claim, I'm an employee, I want to know what's going on. I'm the employer. I also want to know what's going on. And then the Supreme Court came out that said employers need to investigate claims as they happen. It was just harassment claims, any type of claim. You have to have a process in place that is outside of the chain of command. So what better way to have a phone call, a hotline that's tied into the software? So I got all those pieces trying to tie it into the software. And to ease up the paper-driven process, I wanted to upload documents and make sure that you had a virtual case file, so all this paper would go away. And
in 2001.
2001.
Which right now seems like, oh yeah, what I do every single day now.
Yeah.
But like 15 years ago, 16 years ago, nope.
Yeah.
Like we were still at dial-up, right?
That's right. And what's interesting is, from the business standpoint and from the technology standpoint, when I filed the patent in 2001, it took them 5 years to vet the patent to see if there was anybody out there that had come up with something like this. And, when you say first to get a patent, it's to first get a web-based software. That was the thing, because there are other patents associated with like instruments for your heart and things like that. But it wasn't technology. It wasn't web-based. And so, as I drew up all of the information, and I had an outside law firm, expensive process, just so you know, if you really want to get it patent. I think the lawyer at Baker Boss was happier than me.
Because he's like, thank you for the billing.
He called me on the phone when we got the patent. He said, are you sitting down? I said, no. And I said, no. He said, sit down. You got your patent. And I'll never forget it. It was May. Everyone in the world knew about it, but January 2006, and it was out there. And I was like, really? And he said, and I don't think anyone like you has ever done this. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, UT was working on it and seeing how many out there. And he said, yeah, you're it, Janet. And so it was just surreal. I was so excited. I got a lot of publicity. And then it's in that you've got to protect your patent.
I was going to say, like, now, it's great that we now have this.
Yeah.
Now to protect it.
And to make money off of it.
Oh, of course. And so how does one make money off a patent? Like,
well, it's real interesting. There's lots happening. One thing about a patent is, okay, you have to use it. You have to maintain it, and maintaining it means maintenance. You have to pay money to make sure, like I just paid it's $3,300, so it will continue, like I'm continuing to use it. If I'd missed that payment, it would invalidate the patent.
And someone could come along and take it.
Yes, so I have alerts to just about every family member, every cousin, everybody to say, this is the date it's due. So I had all these people saying, it's due this day, it's due this day.
So you will not forget.
If I fall out anywhere, somebody's going to pay that to keep it enforced. But, you're trying to sell licenses to your software. And then you learn that someone else, where you did a proposal, has gotten a copy of your proposal and developed the same software.
Whoa.
And they're selling it to the federal government. And they're winning contracts. Lots of contracts. And you're saying, that can't be this. And so you finally go to a place where you can see it. And it was like 2 years after I got the patent that I actually saw it. And I said, time to file a lawsuit. So I filed my first lawsuit. I filed 3 lawsuits. Well, I have 3 lawsuits. They've all settled. Meaning that we didn't even do discovery. They
knew what they did was wrong.
Well, in litigation, it's always a risk.
Right.
And whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
It's a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, you've got to document everything. You've got to make sure you're signing these. You're making sure that your employees, that people have access.
NDAs up the yin
yang. NDAs, all of those things. And I went to this program at Harvard, and it's called Women in Power. They were talking about policies and things like that. And one thing I learned out of that, with all of the women that were involved in this program, is that women are we're very caring, and sometimes we let down our guard. We're aggressive, but we don't show it, and we're not we're just not a dog fighter, but we do protect our young. So we have something.
Mama bear.
Yeah, we have something that's ours. And I looked at all, and I noticed that's what all of us had in common. The handbag maker that's on in our group, her original designs. We were all thinking about, this is ours. I'm going to protect it. That's right. So you have to get that about something that you spent your life, blood, sweat on.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And were there times when you were going through the patenting process, because I know that it's a long time to do, where you're like, forget this?
There were times when I was, out there, trying to get business, and I always had that little patent pending.
Right.
It didn't really mean anything at that point, but it was patent pending. And then at that time, you don't have the patent, and you really have to be careful as you present.
You have to present, but
that's right. I got to the point that I said, let me see if you're really interested, and then I'll show you what it does.
Right.
It was frustrating. It was frustrating because cash flow, and there were, as an African American woman, I wasn't taken as seriously as others.
If you were a white guy, it would have been a whole lot different.
Yeah,
we're honest here in this show.
Let me tell you, my husband is a white guy, and he said the same thing. He said, if you're a white guy, this would be different. And I don't know necessarily. I think the advantages were, even if I was Asian, I would have had a better chance. And the person who did, and and when we settled, he said, well, I'm not saying that I'm guilty of anything. I just want to resolve it. He's Asian, and when I started my company, he was in high school, and he didn't go to college, and no exposure to civil rights. Well, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. I was exposed to civil rights. This is equal employment opportunity. It's civil rights software. So who would you think would come up with some software that's about civil rights? And someone who had no experience. There's nothing wrong with not going to college.
He's just a tech guy.
Yeah. And bragging about hacking. So I was very, very surprised, and it was a life lesson that you have to pay the way, but you also have to be you have to be ruthless when it comes to what's yours and what you worked hard for. So.
Yeah, I think that's oftentimes people get a little bit of a laissez-faire attitude about business, and it's like, no, you have to be mama bear. This is mine. I built it. It's my child.
That's right.
And I will not have you come take it away from me.
That's right.
And if you don't do that, because it also, that fire in passage is actually really important for when you're selling.
Right.
Because when people see that you have invested so much.
That's right.
If it comes down to you and somebody else, they're like, well, I know this person is going to put their blood, sweat, and tears in there. I want to work with them versus this person who's just kind of like, I'm just smiling and dialing.
Right. And I talk about the $50,000 that I got from the banker, but before I got the $50,000 from the banker, my mother gave me $5,000. She didn't have that $5,000 to give. She owned her house, and she owned a Cadillac. She refinanced a Cadillac to give me $5,000. We still have that Cadillac. My mother is gone, but that Cadillac, I said, I'll never, my dad, and we were talking about that the other day, he said, you remember when she financed? I said, I sure do. Sent me $5,000. That was the most money I had at one time in my life. And so when I got that line of credit, that was great, but I still said to my mom, you got this started for me, and she said, you were a kid from the day one, you were always looking at ideas. You were selling candy at school. I got a call from the principal. She can't sell candy until after lunch. Kids are spending their lunch money on Janet's candy.
And you're like, not my fault they're hungry.
Well, in those days, you got a 6-pack Hershey's, and you could buy it for $1.49. I would take that out the packet
and break them apart,
and start selling them at school.
Awesome.
And so after I made some money off those, I reinvest on the bigger packets. And I had...
You were a salesman from the beginning.
Oh, I had over $100 at 10th grade, over $100 in my bank account. And in 10th grade, in the 70s, over $100, that was a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Hershey's.
That's right. And if you go thrifty, you can really do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what would you say, how do you sort of describe where you are now? So you're 16 years with the patent. Mm-hmm. You're paying your $3,300 every year on the dot.
It has like your 3-year, your 5-year period, your 11-year period. I have, because it took them 5 years to grant the patent, they gave me an additional 5 years. A patent is 20 years. So, I have about 11 years left. So that's kind of where I am now. I still have to look at infringers. I have quite a few infringers. And I don't get as many patent trolls, They'll call you and want to buy the patent and go after infringers. You can still use it, but you wouldn't own it anymore. And I decided not to do that, although it was tempting at one time. But today, I would say that I'm in a good space as far as feeling good. I thought about doing some more things with the patent, like you can look at enhancing it and trying to go for another one. I don't want to do that. There's so much going on from a civil rights, from an EEO. I feel like my impact with the software can be something that the next generation can use, regardless of the patent and going away. I want to stay in this business. Sometimes I used to think I wanted to retire, but things have changed so much with regard to this particular area that I'm passionate about that I'm not. I just turned a certain age, and I won't go
25.
Yeah, that's what it is. Since my son's 25, so
Yep.
but technology, you just have to keep reinventing yourself. And it's, everyone said, oh, it's a young person. I was texting before all the moms were texting. My kids hated that. And that's what you have to do. You have to keep
be ahead of the curve.
Be ahead of the curve. You have to do podcasts and look at ways to get yourself out there. But you cannot be this old-fashioned way of doing things. Like, the law firms figured out that they needed to have a web-based software patent because they were competing with me, and they were like, well, man, she's winning everything. That was one of my infringers I had to resolve recently. That you just have to keep pushing me. And like today, I feel a little comfortable in my skin, and I just want to encourage others. I spoke at this a group, Girls Who Code, and it was like teenagers, and I wanted to tell them that just don't let anyone discourage you about doing your thing. Don't let people make fun of you, because you're at a computer and you're doing this. Don't be intimidated about being in the engineering class with the boys or the computer class with the boys.
Hell no.
Yeah, I just want to keep encouraging and keep making money. I'm going down to the Silicon Valley and talking to folks down there, talking to professional people about technology, getting more black kids into technology. We are so creative as people. You think about the dress, the dance, the music, the everything.
Black Twitter.
That's what I'm saying. There's this is meant for how we are, and I just want to encourage them to sit down, get a little group together, and start thinking ideas. Just map them out. That's what I did. I started writing stuff down. I got a little notebook every day, writing ideas down. I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning. Idea, write it down. That's what you do, and then it just all kind of comes together. And just don't get discouraged.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand that it's a long road.
Yeah,
and it's not a quick fix.
That's what's different. You're right, absolutely. Because I think this generation, they want it yesterday,
instant gratification,
and that's why I've seen that they may not be as challenged by going out and getting and working on technology, because it's not going to have that instant gratification that they're looking for. If they thought, I'm going to be a multimillionaire, the unfortunate thing is they have Facebook and they have all of the Twitter and all of these people that have made lots of money at a young age, and they think that's how it has to be. Or not at all.
Right.
And my son the other day, he said, I'm so old. And I said, Drew, if I was 25, when I was, when is 25? What? I know. I was like, old. So, yeah, I didn't think they just need to pause. But yeah, if they're not willing to put the effort in, they're going to be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one thing you wish you knew now, that when you were first starting out with this business, that you wish you had known?
Oh my goodness. If I knew now, one of the things that I would have done is spend a lot of time selling, more time selling. I spent a lot of time working on the cases and things like that. I should have spent more time selling the software out there. I let someone get more competitive advantage on me, even though I ended up suing them. And now they can use the software. But if you have something important like this, you just have to make sure that you have a vision. You're a visionary, and it's really hard if you're in a place in time and no one can see the future. So for me, the thing that I wish I had just invested in that sales team, invested in the marketing game, the business development, and we get a big contract. The largest contract that I signed up until, I just signed a contract with Homeland Security, $20 million. That was a big contract for me. But before that, the first big contract was General Motors. And that contract lasted until they filed for bankruptcy. You never, if I can say this a million times, just rest on your laurels.
Right.
You have to the hustle has to keep going. And
act like you don't even have it still.
Exactly. And I was just fortunate to win another contract after that bankruptcy because that was a big deal. That was my bread and butter. You need to have more bread and more butter always, so don't have yourself in just
you can't have one sandwich. You gotta have multiple sandwiches.
Oh yeah. Ham, turkey, all that. That's right.
Yeah. Some caprese here, some turkey, some clubs.
That's right. And national presence. I always did the national presence over just the local Southland. But that is that's probably the biggest thing to me is that business development, that sales team, having that in place. That's more important, of course, the CEO, all of those people, financial people, but there's nothing to manage, no money to manage.
If you ain't got no clients. I have clients.
That's right. And I'm not a cocktail entrepreneur. I am, I don't go out, I don't do a lot of these. I really don't. I'm very selective. If you go on the internet, you'll see a few things. But there are times when I could have really pushed, I Inc. 500. I could have been out there saying, oh yeah, this. I always I wanted things to be quiet, quietly, because a lot of times when they see you, people try to knock you down. Yeah. And so sometimes you work that business development, put the right face there.
They can go do that.
Well, many times I sent out my white husband to sell, and somebody else that didn't look like I really did not put my picture on things until much later. Like the 2000. That's probably about 2004. And I had been in business 10 years, and there was shock when I would come in to meetings and see, and I had one person, she's my VP of Business Development, tall, blonde, very attractive woman. They always went to her and say, "Hi, Janet," and she would say, "Oh, this is Janet." It happened
all the time.
Oh, Jennifer, she still talks. She's a VP at an oil and gas company now. She'll tell you that. She'll say how many times they came over to her.
Oh, I have been there. I have been there. It's like, but it's in the 2010s now.
Yeah.
Y'all have Google, and I still have people who are very confused when they meet at meetings, and I'm like, or if I get a referral somewhere.
But see, you think about Google and all that stuff wasn't around.
That's what I'm saying.
And so the brochure was the thing that sold you. And so as the internet developed, it had been like 2002, 2003. And so as the internet came around, you had to have some PR to get your picture on the internet.
Right.
And so for a while, I didn't have to worry about that. But then I said, okay, I'm going to be out there. And then Wikipedia came, and someone said, oh, you got to do a Wikipedia page. And so I just said, that was the bad thing about Wikipedia. I can't hide my age anymore.
You can hide your age.
Yeah, but everybody can Google me and say, oh, I didn't know she had.
You can edit that. There are ways around that.
Yeah. The truth will always set you free. Any press that I'm going to ever get, they're not going to be able to ever come back and say, oh, that's not true. I just go with it, I'm not like certain people out there.
Subtracting 25, and you're like, now I know black don't crack, but really.
That's right. Or either they'll have on the Wikipedia page, it says that she may be born
reportedly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and keep mine. I'm gonna keep myself off of Wikipedia page as long as I possibly can. Note to self, because no one knows how old I am, and that's a good thing. There's like a 10-year window of how old I put to everybody, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep it that way.
I'm pretty pretty excited. In February I turned 60, and I said, I look back. If I don't do anything else, I think about, oh yeah, okay, I did that. But then last year, before I turned 60, there's this program at Tulane Law School, and I said, oh, they got a jurisprudence in labor and employment, the area that I focus on. And I told my husband, I said, I'm going to go to that program. And he's like, you're 59. I said, so? You never stop learning. I graduated, and I will be graduating in May from Tulane Law School.
Fantastic.
With the jurisprudence and labor and employment. And everyone thinks, you just don't. And I told my son, I said, maybe I want to get a PhD. And he said, Mom, that's enough. And I was like,
nope.
No. And then maybe I want to run for president. and they just laughed, but they laughed when I said I'm going to develop some software. So
right.
You just never
know. I will vote for you in a heartbeat. You know why? I always make this joke about the fact that, like, if you give a black woman a task, she will figure it out.
That's right.
So if you want to, there'll be people
challenge us.
Don't test us, because
right.
we will do it.
That's right.
And that's why everyone's like talking about Kamala Harris, and it's like, yeah, because you know what, she did not back down.
That's
it's
right.
like it's in our lifeblood as black women, because we oftentimes get treated the worst.
Well, I totally agree. I look at how Michelle Obama, someone who extremely educated, articulate, smart, had everything there. And for people to say, oh, look at this we finally got a great...
classy First Lady.
Yeah.
Like,
and nothing against the current one, it's just that there is this thing that as an African-American woman, that has worked very hard. Education has been a big part of my life, and to be ignored because color of my skin, I'm just not going to have it.
Nope.
And then growing up in the South, I think there's a difference too. I know these New Yorkers, the East Coast Yankees, but growing up, everybody has an Alabama, Mississippi relative. It's tough in Alabama. It made you really strong, and then you moved to a state like Texas. It made you even stronger.
Yeah. No, I think it's so key. So you've got all this stuff going on, and then you were just talking to me about this nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So what is that? Because apparently Janet doesn't want to sleep ever.
Well, I guess it was in school. And I said, there's still something that I need to do. I need to contribute. And after the election, it's like everyone had something. They had something that they felt after the election. And I just looked at, I got statistical data on women and how women are treated in the workplace and pay equity. And it's a huge difference. Women of color, it's 55 cents on a dollar.
Oh, it's nauseating.
For white women, it's 80 cents on a dollar. And I was at a program, and someone said, how do we change that 80 cents on a dollar? And I raised my hand, and I said, wait a minute. You at least got 80 cents. Can we get to 80 from our 55 Hispanics are right there with us? $5. It's like $5 difference. And I said, there's got to be something. So I came up with this idea. It's called Women in Power. Well, actually, it's empowering us. But I was tying it to women in power. Women, trying to encourage us. So empowering us. And I saw these women, that Women's March. And I said, look at all of those women in these pink hats and all of that. And I saw the names out there, and I said, oh, empowering us. And I said, I need a good tagline. And I kept saying,
you can totally say it. You can totally say it.
I need a good tagline. I just saw it out there, and I said, okay, empowering us, the pussy effect.
Damn right. Damn right.
I said, this is who we are. You know what? You're going to call us that? We're going to be that. But we'll
own it. Take it back. I'll take it back.
Yeah.
It's strong.
Yeah.
Brings kids in the world. Hello.
Well, that's it. You own it. Take ownership of it. the N-word was something that was used against. We took ownership of it. No one would use it. You take ownership, and then you all of a sudden you control your destiny, and it's no longer you saying that behind his back. I'm saying it in front of you, and it really is going to be an effect on you because we're going to take charge. We're not going to take this pay equity difference. I just know too many smart women out there that work hard every day, and then I talked to someone and he said, "Well, the man came in and asked for more money, even though the woman is as qualified." So that's something that I want to work on as well. So I have my company over there, but I said there's got to be some philanthropic things I can do to empower women. And so I started looking around and talking to different people, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Jen, let's do it. Let's go for it." So that's something that I plan on doing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Janet, it has been an absolute delight to have you on this show. I feel like I'm fired up and ready to go take on the world, even more so than I already am.
Okay.
But you've been a wonderful guest, and I encourage everyone to follow you on Twitter and just read about what Janet was able to do and how she's been able to be such a fantastic success. But I think we need more voices like yours. We need to hear them over and over again because that will empower people to move forward.
Thank you.
I'm so thrilled to have you. Thank you so much.
Hear us roar. You remember Hillary? Hear us roar.
Yeah, hear us roar. Awesome. Thanks again. Thank you. Great to have you on the show, Janet.
Thank you.